Like Anna, Mum had this lovely gift of asking questions that landed somewhere. What, she asked us one Sunday afternoon, was God's greatest creative act? Although I didn't go along with Genesis, I answered, when he created mankind. I was wrong, according to Mum, so I had another shot. I was still wrong. I ran through the 6 days of creation and drew nothing but blank looks. There was nothing more I could think of. It wasn't until I had run out of ideas I became aware of an exchange between Mum and Anna. So often with Mum, that smile appeared. It was her Christmas tree smile. She lit up. She winked, and there was no other place to look. The sort of gathering everything around her. Anna was watching her intently, chin cupped in her hands. There they sat, looking at each other. Mum with her wonderful smile, and Anna with her intense look. The insulation of the 6 foot or so that separated them was beginning to give way. Anna drilled away at it with her blue eyes, whilst Mum melted it with her smile. Suddenly it happened. Anna slowly placed her hands on the table and pushed herself upright. The gap had been bridged. Anna's matching smile had to wait while astonishment shaped her face. She gasped. It was the 7th day. Course it was. The 7th day. I looked from one to the other and cleared my throat to capture their attention. I didn't get it. I said, God worked all his miracles in 6 days and then shut down for a bit of a rest. What's so exciting about that? Anna got off her chair and came and sat on my lap. This I knew. This was her approach to the unseeing and unknowing infant me. Why did Mr. God rest on the 7th day? She began. I suppose he was a bit flaked out after 6 days' hard work, I answered. He didn't rest because he was tired, though. Oh, it makes me tired just to think about it all. Course he didn't. He wasn't tired. Wasn't he? No, he made rest. Oh, he did that, did he? Yes, that's the biggest miracle. Rest is. What do you think it was like before Mr. God started on the 1st day? A perishing big muddle, I guess, I replied. Yes, and you can't rest when everything's in a big muddle, can you? I suppose not. So what then? Well, when he started to make all the things, it got a bit less muddled. Makes sense, I nodded. When he was finished making all the things, Mr. God had undone all the muddle. Then you can rest. So that's why rest is the very, very biggest miracle of all. Don't you see? Put like that, I did see, and I liked what I saw. It made sense. Sometimes, though, I found that I kicked against being the infant at the bottom of the class, and this feeling often caused me to put a dig in wherever I got the chance. I know what he did with all that muddle, I exclaimed, feeling rather pleased with myself. What? Asked Anna. He stuffed it in people's brain boxes. I had meant this as a bombshell, but it didn't go off. Instead, 2 heads nodded in agreement and pleasure that I had grasped the point so quickly. I did a sharp about-face and accepted their agreeing nods as if I was entirely entitled to them. It left me with a problem. How could I ask the question, why did he stuff the muddle in people's brain boxes in such a way as not to find myself at the bottom of the class again? It's a funny thing, this muddle, I began. It ain't, said Anna. You have to have a muddle in your head before you really know what rest is." "Oh, yes, I suppose that must be the reason." "Being dead is a rest," she went on. "Being dead, you can look back and get it all straight before you can go on. Being dead was nothing to get fussed about. Dying could be a bit of a problem, but not if you had really lived. Dying needed a certain amount of preparation, and the only preparation for dying was real living. The kind of preparation old Granny Harding had made during her lifetime. We had sat, Anna and I, holding Granny Harding's hands when she died. Granny Harding was glad to die. Not because life had been too hard for her, but she had been glad to live. She was glad that the rest was near. Not because she had been overworked, but because she wanted to order, wanted to arrange 93 years of beautiful living. She wanted to play it all over again. "It's like turning inside out, me dears," she had said. Granny Harding had died smiling. Died in the middle of a description of Epping Forest on an early summer's morning. She died happily because she had lived happily. Old Granny went to church for the second time in her life. It was 3 weeks to the day that we all went to another funeral. About a couple of dozen or more of us went to Skipper's funeral. 6 or so of the older ones, and about 20 or so of assorted sizes. She won't make old bones, they had said, and they were right. Skipper was a natural practical joker, always ready for a laugh. She would have laughed a lot more, but it made her cough, and she had been coughing a lot lately. Skipper was just coming up to 15 years old when she died. Flaxen hair, blue-eyed, with skin about as transparent as tissue paper. Skipper funned and punned her way through her 15 years. Why? It hadn't been all that many weeks ago since we'd all been talking about dying. It was Bunty who opened the conversation with, "How do you die?" Someone answered with, "It's easy. You just stop." Skipper had flipped back with, "Sure, it's easy. Dead easy." We all groaned. Ugh. The funeral service was a solemn occasion, far too solemn for such a Skipper. The Reverend Castle went on about the innocence of youth, and someone had to stifle a giggle. Lifting his eyes upwards, he told us that Skipper was now in heaven. Amen. Little faces all turned upwards, and little mouths opened wide in appreciation. Except for young Dora, she looked downwards. She got a good nudge, and someone said in one of those thunderclap whispers, "Up! Up there!" Dora's head went up to the roof of the church, overbalanced and toppled backwards with a thud. "I dropped me sweets on the floor," she complained. The Reverend Castle droned on in his easy way, painting his word pictures of Skipper. It wasn't our Skipper he was talking about. At least none of us recognised her. It's a good job that the dead don't talk back. I can just imagine what Skipper would have said. "Ooh, the bleeding hell's he talking about, silly old sod." Fortunately, the Reverend Castle didn't hear and brought the proceedings to a close. We trooped off to the cemetery to pay our last respects. The kids chucked various items into the grave and walked away. We all stood a few yards off and waited for Buzz, who stayed a little longer. It had been that way between Skipper and Buzz. We made tracks for the cemetery gates, passing a 12-foot angel lying a marble bunch of flowers on a grave. "Do you reckon Skipper's got wings now?" somebody piped up. "S'pose so," came an answer. "Don't fancy wings myself." "Why's that?" "Well, how can you get your shirt off?" "Don't be daft. Angels don't have no shirts." "What then?" It's a nightie. I ain't gonna wear no nightie. It's sissy. Life had started up again. Maggie, someone yelled. Where's Evan? Somewheres, replied Maggie. It's up there. Better not be. Why's that? If it is, I bet your skipper would whittle on your head. Oh, you are horrible. Buzz, you going to get married now Skipper's dead? Silly cow, said Buzz. What she want to go and die for? Better than coughing up her guts for years. Suppose so. Still. Maggie, is there a difference between heaven for the proddies and for the Orsees and for the Jews and all of them? No, only one. What's all the different churches and synagogues for then? I don't know. Old Nick done that. Just like old Nick, he mucks everything up. Do you reckon Skipper's gone to old Nick? She'd better not. Old Nick would chuck her out in a couple of days. Poor old Nick. You gotta laugh. Can't stand that, can old Nick? Stand what? Laughing. It drives him up the wall. What do you think Skipper's doing now? Singing hymns, I suppose. Poor, don't fancy that lark, singing hymns all the time. This was Matt, looking upwards. He began to yell, and in a moment was joined by all the other kids. Sam, the dirty old man, washed his face in a frying pan, combed his hair with a leg and a chair. Sam, the dirty old man. I bet your Skipper'll teach all them angels that one. Yeah, and there was an old man of Lancashire who... Not that one, stupid, it's dirty. 'Cause it ain't. Bet your God laughs. Bet ye don't. What's he made us with arses for if we can't say it? It's dirty, that's all. Why does everybody make God out to be miserable? I wish I was God. I'd laugh. Yeah. And what about Jesus? What about Jesus? All them pictures, they make him look like a right pansy. I bet he didn't look like that. His old man was a chippy. So was Jesus. If you'd sawed up bloody great lumps of wood all day and all night, you'd have bloody big muscles. Yeah, I bet he was all right. Course he was. He had a blooming good booze up and all that. Where does it say that? The Bible. He turned the water into wine. Good job my old man can't do that. Your old man can't do nothink. Why can't I say arse? 'Cause you just can't. Jesus had one. Yeah, but he didn't say arse. How do you know? I bet he said bum. He didn't. He taught Yiddish. You're daft. Like that nit at Sunday school says that the rain was the angels crying. What the hell they got to cry about? What the hell they got to cry about? Aye, twits like you asking silly questions. Do you reckon God gets fed up? What for? All them prayers and all them questions. If I was God, I'd make people laugh. If you was God, you wouldn't have to make 'em. If I was God, I'd bash 'em all on the head with the thunderbolt. I got a good idea. Another miracle. No, straight up. What about starting another church? Stone the perishing crows. Ain't we got enough of them? No, I mean no prayers and no hymns. We'll just tell funny jokes about old Nick. That'll make him curl up. He don't like people laughing. Yeah, a laughing church. Hey, that is good, that. A laughing church. And so it went on. Hour after hour, day after day, and year after year. Like summer lightning, the conversation flickered and flared, lighting up the dark places, forging a philosophy, a theology of a way of life, something to live with. It was this that Anna was so greedy for. It may not sound very much, but it was the ore from which the gold came. One thing was certain. Skipper was dead, and as she would have said